Good morning, SCORE. My name is Neil Collins, and I'm your CEO. First off, I want to thank everyone that attended Tracy Lee's Touching Celebration of Life last night. We had nearly 200 people attend. I think she would have both appreciated it and been slightly embarrassed because she was a very selfless individual. So thank you all. Now let's shift to the order of the business of the day. So we're holding our first virtual general membership meeting. I believe at last count, we had about 203 people registered. So if everyone shows up, this will be one of our largest events we've ever had as far as a general membership meeting. We got a great program ahead. So I'm going to jump right in and let's get this thing kicked off by introducing our 2020 president, Miss Sandy Jamison. Take it away, Sandy.
Thank you, Neil. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our first ever general membership meeting via Zoom. I'm really excited to focus on this new technology and test this out and kind of be the pilot or the beta tester, so to speak. So I'm going to be really interested to see what kind of feedback we get from this event today, and I'm really excited about it. Anyway, I hope you're all doing well. The first order of business today, before I get too far, is we need to salute the flag. So since this is an official general membership meeting, we start out with our flag salute. And since today is, at times like now, we are seeing more and more patriotism than ever. It's at an all-time high across the country. So I'd like everybody to take a moment and please salute the great flag of the United States with us this morning. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the
republic for which
it stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
Indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty and justice.
and justice for all.
for all.
All right, good job. Thanks, everybody, for that. So I just wanted to start out with a few opening comments for everyone. First of all, I hope that you are all adapting well to this new reality that we have. Business at times right now is definitely unique, something new and different that we've never seen before. But we are seeing people adapt and business is happening, and we are seeing realtors remain successful at times like we are experiencing now. If you are waiting for business as usual to come back, then you need to stop, because I don't think that it will ever be as usual as we knew it, and I think we're going to have some new realities going forward. One thing I've noticed, though, is that home ownership now is so important to people as they're working from home. People who are staying home now have more emphasis on having a home office or having an outdoor space, or they need larger space. So we're seeing a lot of buyers now, more than ever, putting more and more emphasis on their home and not treating it just as a hotel or a place to go spend the night, but really some place that they're actually spending a lot more time and really living in. And so we're seeing that now home ownership and helping those buyers get into bigger and nicer homes is more important than ever. And in fact, what Zillow and Realtor.com are seeing is that the traffic on those websites is going crazy the last few weeks. So when the shelter in place first hit, the traffic dropped off. I think people were nervous. They weren't really paying attention to houses as much. But honestly, the last 2 to 3 weeks, I was just meeting with the CFO from Realtor.com, and he said that the traffic views are through the roof right now. There's a lot of buyer lead traffic out there. There's a lot of activity. There's a lot of pent-up demand. So if you have buyers, you should definitely be reaching out and connecting with those buyers and find a way to show them some homes and help them buy a home. And one of the benefits of some of the restrictions that I'm seeing, so I'm an optimist, I'm always looking on the bright side. And I know it's frustrating that we can't have open houses, but in some ways, the fact that you can't have an open house actually gives you an opportunity to strengthen your relationship with your buyers. And it makes you more valuable than ever as a realtor, so that you can provide value to your buyer to help them see the home and purchase that home. So while these restrictions may be frustrating, sometimes there's a silver lining and a bright side to it. And so I hope that everybody will we'll see what some of those benefits are. Now, these new guidelines that are coming out from CAOR, NAR, from the health department, from OSHA, from all these different sources, I know they're changing daily, and we are trying our best to keep up on it. But one thing I wanted to point out is that these guidelines, they give us a parameter. These parameters allow us to work. They allow us to do our job. And by giving us these parameters, it's allowing us to remain essential business. So the shelter in place is not necessarily a reason to not to work. It's actually a framework that allows us to work. So what I hope that I would see from all of our members is that I hope that we can be cooperative and supportive of one another. If you see somebody who's not following all the rules, you know, don't try to police them, don't judge them, because remember, these rules are changing constantly. We're trying to keep everybody up to date, but it's a difficult task, and somebody might be following the rules from last week and may not be completely up on the rules from this week. So I just want to remind all of our members that we are not the policing agency for anybody who may violate a law or a health order or not taking all the safety precautions. We are here to provide the communications to everybody to help get the word out. So please keep that in mind. We're here, we're doing the best we can to get the word out, and I truly honestly believe that our members are all doing the best that they can with the information that they have in order to accommodate these guidelines and work within these parameters and keep the business going. So as Tracy Lee probably would have said, everyone is doing the best they can given the circumstances. So I just want to remind everybody and thank everybody for always being civil and professional in this business. And thank you to everybody who attended the event yesterday for Tracy Lee. It was absolutely beautiful, wonderful event. And I want to thank the Constantinos for putting it together. I think that it turned out lovely, and she will definitely be missed. So a couple more quick comments. So early in the year, I outlined a few priorities that we had, and I just wanted to say that we have not stopped making progress on our priorities. We are still marching ahead. We are still making progress. And I want to thank the staff for being adaptive and flexible and remaining committed to the organization. A couple of the things that we've been working on, just a couple of highlights I want to throw out. One of my big priorities had to do with member value. I really wanted to try to find more ways to bring some value to our members. So you've probably heard about Agent EDU. That's an online webinar training platform. For many, many years, we've been trying to find some sort of online training. We finally found a partner. It's a good start. It's probably one of many more to come in the future. So we're really excited about that. But we also just approved, and I don't know if I'm allowed to announce this, but I'm going to go ahead and announce it anyway. We have just approved that we are going to invest in an entirely new online shopping store for the Realtor store. So if you've tried to shop on SCOR's website, you'll probably find that it's not exactly consumer friendly. So the board just approved the implementation of a complete new system. So we're going to be working on that this summer. When that's ready, hopefully later this year, we will be putting the word out and have you guys go check it out and hopefully make it a lot easier for you to purchase goods online instead of always have to drive down to the office in order to do so. So we're really excited about that. In addition, we have always been focused on our operational efficiencies, and this one you'll get a kick out of. But we also just approved, in light of the new corona sanitation and precautions, is we are now going to upgrade all of our bathrooms to have touchless fixtures. So yay, touchless toilets and faucets and hand paper towel dispensers. So I know that's probably not the most exciting thing, but it's definitely something we're thinking about in order to make our members feel safe. And then my third big priority has always been around communications. And so I am happy to report that our member engagement is honestly, it's through the roof right now. It's more than it's ever been since we are doing more trainings and more meetings online. Our attendance is up exponentially higher than it's been ever in history. So we are holding and hosting more of our members and reaching out to more of our members now than ever before. And so member engagement has always been one of those things that we wanted to focus on. And so I'm really happy to see people are tuning in and they're really jumping in and attending these events. So I just want to thank everybody for that. And also on our political front, we have also, a few months ago, we approved a new political advocacy system at SCCAOR so that we can streamline our communications on the political advocacy side, our candidate relations, our red alert management system. And I'm happy that our government affairs team has been working on implementation of that. And so we're really making progress on our goals this year. And this shelter in place has not set us back by any means. And so we're very excited about that. Next, we're going to be looking at our PR and some of our community-focused communications. And so we are definitely moving full steam ahead. So again, I want to thank the SCCAOR staff for being adaptive and flexible during these times and definitely remaining committed to this organization and to all of our members. And so anyway, enough on that. I just want to remind everybody a couple of quick protocols for our meeting today. We're going to do our best to try to respond to questions that you have. Remember that we have a Q&A feature on this Zoom webinar. So if you have a question, please put it into the Q&A rather than the chat, because in the Q&A we can actually post a response to your question in the Q&A, or we could tee it up to one of our speakers today in order to answer that question. And we will try to work in answers to all your questions as we go today, but if we're not able to, we will most definitely follow up with you after the meeting. So with that, thank you again for joining in today. Let me take a minute here and introduce and turn it over to our SCCAOR Government Affairs Manager, Tim Bobian.
Thank you, Sandy. That was a great opening remark this morning. It's fantastic to be able to have this general membership meeting, even if it is virtually today. It would have been great to see all of our members' smiling faces this morning, but we can overcome, and I think this is going to be great. So I'll right into it, and we're going to introduce our guest speaker this morning, who is Tony Lopresti. He is the Deputy County Counsel at the County of Santa Clara. Tony joined the Office of County Counsel in 2018. He is a member of both the Social Justice and Impact Litigation section and the General Government section. He advises the Parks and Recreation Department and the Office of Supportive Housing as well. Tony went to UC Santa Cruz for his undergrad, where he studied Latin American Latino Studies, and he received his law degree from the UC Berkeley School of Law. Tony has been incredibly helpful and a fantastic resource to myself and the rest of our staff to help decipher the county shelter-in-place order and how it pertains to real estate during this time. He has been my go-to contact at the County of Santa Clara during this COVID-19 pandemic, always responding to my several calls and emails. I'm consistently bugging him, trying to figure out what's going on when the shelter in place is amended. So thank you very much for your knowledge, your time commitment to help all of these essential businesses operate under the shelter in place and follow all of the guidelines.
Great. Well, thank you, Tim. I really appreciate that introduction. Thank you for the invitation to present to this group. I think I want to start by just expressing some gratitude for the work that you have all done over the last several months to comply with the shelter-in-place orders. I know that this has been an extraordinary time. There has been an unprecedented need for sacrifice, and Santa Clara County really led the Bay Area counties in putting in place the first shelter-in-place orders in the country. The state followed suit shortly after. Many other states and localities followed on using our shelter-in-place order as a model in most cases. I think we've seen really amazing results from that shelter-in-place order in terms of our ability to contain the virus. I mean, we had, I think, one of the earliest outbreaks and one of the most extreme outbreaks, and in the potential for that to get completely out of hand, the potential for us to turn into a New York was very present. And when you look at our ability to contain it and now be in a pretty good place in terms of our ability to start to relax some of the restrictions that we imposed, I think you really have to go to the business community and say thank you for the sacrifice that people put in to actually give a good faith effort at robust compliance with an order that I know is incredibly difficult to comply with. It requires a complete rethinking and remaking of the way you do business, and it can compromise your ability to build your relationships with clients, to keep your businesses afloat. And I know how hard that can be. You know, my dad has built a business for 55 years, really from scratch into this robust business that he has down in San Diego. He can still not operate at all. And, you know, I hear from him every day. I know how hard that is on people. I know how hard the uncertainty is. And I just really appreciate what people are going through. I want to talk a little bit just about the orders. I think what you've seen since the March 17th order and the 3 orders after that is a gradual relaxation of restrictions on generally, but also on the real estate industry, whereas transactions were really strictly limited early on. The services that could support those transactions were strictly limited. Those were relaxed, both because you know, we were making some progress in containing the virus, and also because we heard from the industry, from SCCAOR, from folks like Tim, who did an excellent job saying, this is what we're seeing on the ground. This is what we need in order to be able to put one foot in front of the other in our industry. And we were able to make some adjustments that I think provided a framework that was at least workable. You know, I know that the shelter-in-place order can seem confusing. You know, we are working in real time. You know, this order is unprecedented in its scope. You know, it's essentially trying to regulate the entire swath of society in one order. Something like that you would usually take years to develop. And we've, you know, oftentimes are working, you know, in increments of days or weeks because we're responding to real-time information. So you're not necessarily getting all the details exactly right in that first iteration, and it takes a little bit of time to try to hone the order into something that reflects the on the ground realities. And I really appreciate the insight we've been able to collect from folks on the ground, from folks like Tim. That's in many ways how we've been able to move forward in a functional way. And you know, we invite continued input both on this call and beyond. I know there's a lot more work to do, and while real estate is allowed to go forward as an essential business and all of the supporting services that are necessary to those transactions are allowed to go forward, you know, there are still very severe limitations in many respects. And, you know, there's going to be a process for relaxing those without unnecessarily increasing the risk. As we move forward, I think everybody's aware that the state and other localities are generally moving in a positive directions in terms of relaxing the restrictions, although we don't see that across the board. I think yesterday was an interesting moment when you saw Lassen County, the first county in the state to withdraw its attestation for a variance from the state order. They had sought to move faster than the state generally allowed, and they withdrew that when they had an outbreak of cases in their county. I think that's an important reminder for us that you know, as we're moving forward here, everybody wants to open up as quickly as possible, but this is science-based, it's data-driven, and if the data turns against us, there could be more restrictions being placed on industries and on the economy. So, you know, this is, I think, a very it's a situation that is very much in flux, and we're going to have to be adaptive as a government but we're also going to have to ask the business community to be adaptive as well. And I know how hard that can be. We're going to have to, I think, really develop the kind of communication flows and partnerships that exist between government and the private sector in order to be able to do that, functionally. If our data continues to trend in a positive direction, which right now it very much is going in a positive direction in terms of our case count, in terms of hospitalizations, in terms of our capacity to test and our capacity to trace, then I think we will see consistent incremental relaxation of the restrictions. Dr. Cody, our health officer, has stated that she anticipates revisiting the order every 2 weeks because that's widely understood to be a standard long incubation period for the virus. So as you open up the economy, you want to see what that opening is doing, what impact that opening is having on the virus and transmission. And so that's the reason why we're not going from 0 to 60 all at once, but instead opening things up slowly. And I anticipate that that's what we'll be continuing to do moving forward. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of overview of where we're at. I'd be happy to take any questions that folks have. To the extent I can't answer those questions, I would certainly take them back to my team that I work with in the Emergency Operations Center, and we'll try to get you answers that make hopefully a little bit of sense.
Thank you for that presentation, Tony. And yes, we will move into the Q&A portion now. If anybody in the audience has a question, please put it in the Q&A box. We'll start with a couple of questions that members submitted to me via email that were unable to attend today. And I would just like to emphasize the point that you made that we're doing this through data and analytics, and it's important to not look at what some other counties out of the Bay Area are doing around us, because it's a different demographic. They're more rural communities opposed to kind of the urban city setters that we have here that are a little bit more receptive to the spread. And you guys have been very collaborative and reasonable in working with myself and SCCAOR in terms of determining what aspects of residential and commercial real estate have been deemed essential. So the first question I'll get into is, how has the county worked with the state to help determine how the county shelter-in-place ordinance and the state executive order of shelter-in-place have kind of interacted and coexisted with each other, if any?
Well, the state order is, to put it bluntly, confusing. There's it definitely serves an important role in creating a baseline across the state. The counties, of course, can be more restrictive. They cannot be less restrictive than what the state allows. So we really look to the state order to provide a baseline of how, to the extent that we want to loosen restrictions, just how much we can loosen those restrictions. And in many cases, we would like to loosen those restrictions more than the state allows. Because there is, some confusion about where the state is at, we sometimes interact with the state to try to get clarity on how they're reading their own order. To some degree, we've referenced the state order in our orders or in our FAQ just to make clear that folks in Santa Clara County have to comply with the more restrictive of the two. So in essence, folks in Santa Clara County are governed both by the county order and the state order, and they have to, I think, to the extent that one is more restrictive than the other, that's the set of restrictions that they have to comply with.
When residential real estate transactions were first deemed essential, private showings were allowed to occur only if a virtual showing was infeasible. As we're seeing the shelter-in-place ordinance being relaxed, is this still the case? And if so, what would kind of be some criteria of how you can determine a virtual tour as being infeasible to maintain a private showing?
That is still the case. And, I think that's the kind of reopening or loosening that I think we're going to have to contemplate as we move forward here. Allowing in-person showings to occur more readily, at some point getting back to allowing open houses, which I know are really critical for a lot of in particular for residential real estate. We have not defined with a whole lot of specificity what the sort of threshold of feasibility is. I think the main question there is, can you get a videographer into a residence? Can they do an adequate, videography tour of the house? Can you do the sort of photographic, take the photography that's necessary in order to give people a true tour of the house? We expect that in most cases that's going to be feasible, and unfortunately that's going to mean that we're going to want people to rely most often on those video tours or on those photographic tours. We understand, I think, how difficult that is. I think when we're having conversations about these restrictions, I think everybody knows that it's no fun to make a decision about whether you're going to buy a house or rent an apartment without being able to actually go there and see what it feels like, see what it smells like, etc. So, that's something that, we'll be looking at trying to relax to some degree as we move forward.
And then another question that you basically just answered was why were open houses deemed non-essential when other stores have kind of allowed a queued system with social distancing and 6 feet apart. But that is, I assume that the same answer as to private showings are so limited as well.
Well, yeah, I think that's true. That's right. I mean, in many cases, you can't take advantage of what's in a store that's selling essential products, without going into them, or at least it would cause such a distraction that it really wouldn't be able to function very feasibly. So, I think it's a case-by-case analysis with the different kinds of services and businesses that we're talking about, and we felt like when it comes to real estate, there were ways to proceed without unnecessarily increasing the risk.
Recently, the state released some new industry guidelines for showing property as a part of their phase 2 reopening, and it's actually more restrictive in terms of cleaning requirements than the county shelter in place and the social distancing protocol form. Our state association has released some forms to fill out and post on the property to be in compliance with these new state guidelines. And a lot of our members are asking, is this a sufficient replacement for the county social distancing protocol form if it's more restrictive and it's showing those guidelines, even if the county form isn't posted? And if not, how could the county kind of interact with the state to create one unified form that people could be posting?
Well, so I think it's important to note that the social distancing protocol is not something you have to put, it's not something you have to put on each house that you're selling or each apartment that you're renting. That's something that would apply to, say, your office. If you're operating in any way, shape, or form out of your office, then the social distancing protocol would have to be posted at your office, and it would have to be distributed to all your employees who are using that facility, and there would have to be full compliance with the social distancing protocol within that facility. With regards to the sort of cleaning protocols and other protocols that exist, within the homes, I think you would. I have not read the guidance that the state has released. It sounds to me like that might be something that I would want to take a look at and see, to what extent, it might make sense to put something up on our website with regards to guidance as to how cleaning occurs in different units. So I would welcome any thoughts that you have on that, Tim, or that the group has on how you're internalizing and interpreting what the state's guidance is, and take a look at it and go from there.
Yeah, I'd be happy to take that offline with you, and we can collaborate on reviewing the state industry guidelines for showing property, and the cleaning protocols, and the best practices guidelines that our state association has released to comply with those, and see if it can be implemented at the county level as well, to kind of streamline the process and make compliance a little bit easier for our members.
Absolutely.
Residential real estate transactions were deemed as an essential business, but real estate offices and brokerages are still not allowed to be open to the public. Why is that so?
Well, so if I'm understanding the question right, it's, if you're talking about your sort of home office, to the extent that you have to be in that office in order to carry out your essential business function, those offices are allowed to open. But there's a really important provision in the order that requires that any essential business maximize the number of employees that can work remotely. And the reason for that is because obviously we want to keep people out of common spaces, and we want people to shelter in place as much as possible. So, I think there really does need to be close attention paid to whether folks really do need to come into the office or not. I would think, from what little I know of, how real estate business works, there is a lot that can be done remotely, over Zoom or over the phone. That's really, I think, an industry-specific inquiry. You all have to, make a determination as to when it is possible to carry out a job function from home remotely, and when it really isn't, and you got to be in the office. If it is the case that you can't carry out a job function from home, though, you can go into the office and work from the office.
So it seems as if it would follow very closely to under the guidelines of a private showing, to do all the paperwork, all meeting with clients remotely. If at all not feasible, you could meet clients in a real estate office or branch, given that it's required and you can't do it online.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comparison.
Okay. There was a question about when the shelter in place will last, but you answered that prior, that Dr. Cody is going to look at kind of 2-week intervals, and we really don't know. We need to continue to monitor the data and analytics and reassess short term, and it's very hard to say kind of a firm concrete date at this point.
That's correct.
Patrick asked a question: is there any insight to when the DRE will open for RE exams? I would think that is not really a question for you. I can work to try to get you an answer for that, Patrick, and we can maybe touch base offline. How can we show rental properties? Would all rental properties fall under all of the same guidelines as for sale properties?
Yeah, that's right. They would. You would comply with it just as you would with a for sale property.
Okay. With that, I think we're running a little short on time. I want to be respectful to the rest of our program and agenda, and also to your time, Tony. There's a couple of unanswered questions that we have in the chat still. I will do my best to answer them, and I will work to Tony to see if we can't get answers to the rest of the audience that asked a couple of questions. But thank you very much for your time and all of your information. This has been very helpful to hear it directly from county council, opposed to filtering it through myself and the rest of the SCCAOR staff.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you having me on, and best of luck. Stay healthy.
Thank you. And I would like to close real quick as the government affairs manager and the head of the advocacy team. We've been doing our best to try to support and represent all of our members during this time, to allow some sense of normalcy for all of you, our realtors and our affiliates, to get back to business in a safe way to provide some financial security, and we will continue to do so. And I would like to plug a webinar that we have this afternoon in partnership with SV at Home as part of their Affordable Housing Month. We're going to be talking about what affordable home ownership housing still exists during the COVID-19 pandemic, and why this may or may not be a good time to enter into the home ownership market, depending on everybody's unique positions. The SV at Home has done great with Affordable Housing Month. We've already participated in one webinar. Our CEO Neil Collins sat in on Councilmember Foley's ADU webinar. That was some fantastic information. So we look forward to having that this afternoon. I believe Jody is going to put a link to register in the chat box if you haven't registered yet. It is at 1 o'clock today, and I look forward to seeing a lot of you there. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Tim, and thank you, Tony, for joining today. We really appreciate all the hard work you put in and for giving us the time today and speaking to our membership. I think it's really important for our members to have that connection and to be able to have representation and be able to join in and ask questions. So thank you again for all of your time. I also want to move this along and want to give a shout out to all of our corporate sponsors today. So we have invited our corporate sponsors to participate today, but several of them were not able to attend. So I want to give a shout out to Bank of America and Wells Fargo today, two of our large corporate sponsors. Thank you to both of them for all of their generous sponsorship of SCORE over the years. And then I want to also introduce our corporate sponsor from HomeGuard. Today we have Marlon Hanley and Ashley Stephenson here to join us today, and they are going to have a couple of minutes to talk to you about HomeGuard. So,
good morning, Sandy. Thank you. Ashley, I'm going first.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. I'm Marlon Hanley from HomeGuard, and most of you should know about HomeGuard. We've been around for over 30 years now. We started off as a termite company, and we've grown to be termite, property, roof, natural hazard, and home warranty. We're all about value, convenience, and using us as a resource. So the neat part is when you call HomeGuard, you get to make the one phone call, order everything, give all the billing information, address, all that, and we're going to go to out to the home one time. Our inspectors will meet you there one time so that you don't have to go to 3 different inspections. We're the first out there to have the easy-to-read reports. We've broken our reports down to Section 1, Section 2, and further inspections. And we're also the first to have iPad summaries at the end of the inspections. So the neat part about that is the inspector is still there. So if you and your clients have any questions, they're right there in person to answer for you. Our latest technology is our drone pictures and all the reports. You will be getting those pictures. And now we're also we were the first to have reps out in the field. Now we're reps on Zoom. So we do your trainings and anything else that you need. We're able to do that on Zooms. Ashley, there's 25 more things.
Marlon, I won't go through the full 25. I know you guys have other things to do today, but just to cover a couple of them, you can also bill through ESCO with our company, and we're available on Saturdays. I know a lot of you guys work on Saturdays, so we're right there with you. And also you can get your reports on the same day if you get an 8:30 or a 10:30 time slot. So I know it's a weird time right now, but you might be working with a short time frame, so we're right there with you. And we're available, like Marlon said. All of your HomeGuard reps are on various different Zooms, so feel free to reach out to your local rep. Me and Marlon are here for you in Santa Clara, and we just really appreciate this time. And it's a lot of good information you guys are sharing, so thank you so much, and we'll hear for you.
Thank
Should
you,
we do our
Marlon.
phone number? 408-993.
No extra charge billed to escrow.
1900.
Thank you, Marlon. Thank you,
Thank
Ashley.
you, Sandy, so much.
Feel free to put that in the chat for all the members to see. And I just want to give you guys a shout out as well, because when the shelter in place first hit, I started calling several inspectors. I needed an inspection done within 2 to 3 days. of that, and Home Guard was the only one at that time that said, yes, we will go out there and we will make this work. So you guys kept it real and you kept the industry moving forward. And I want to thank you guys for all that you do.
Thank you, Sandy.
So
You
much.
know, let me say, if you ever do have a problem getting in on your time frame, go ahead and give the office the information, then call us and tell us the time that you need, and we'll be able to make that happen. So give your rep a call, because we're able to call the agents and people that we know that can switch and move. We can find you a time slot, usually more times than not. Thank you, Sandy.
Thanks again. Okay, great. So we've got a few minutes here that I'd like to turn it over to our Director of Member Engagement, Spencer High. So Spencer, if you want to jump in with a couple of quick updates, that'd be great.
Sure, thank you, Sandy. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. I have a few slides to share. I just wanted to go over just a few free benefits that everyone has as a SCORE member. I know many of you are aware of these benefits. Some of you may not be aware of them, and I just wanted to remind you because these are here for you and they're 100% free, so I hope you can take advantage of them. I'm going to start with a new benefit we have called Agent EDU. Now this is a video service offering real estate training, which is 100% free for you guys now. So you can visit the website right there, score.com/agentedu, and sign up for a free 12-month subscription, no strings attached. A really cool thing Agent EDU just rolled out was if you have an assistant or you want to get an assistant, they have this new training program specifically for real estate assistants. So they will train your assistant on all sorts of great stuff. This training program is normally $50, but if you sign up through SCORE and get your free account, it's 100% free. So I encourage everyone, if you haven't already, to visit this website, score.com/agent. Oh, you know what? Yeah, thought I had a typo there. Agent EDU, and I'll also put that in the chat window. Second free benefit is the tech support helpline. So if you have any tech issue at all, you can call that number on the screen, give them your name, you give them your DRE number, and they will get a live tech support person to help you solve your problem. If you visit the website below, score.com/tech helpline, you can see all the cool things they can help you with. I've used this service before and it is great. Also, you can, if you have a smart speaker, and I'm not going to say the word right now, I don't want to trigger it at everyone's house. So if you have a smart speaker that is enabled, you can say that magic word in the quote and you can get housing stats. So you can get closed sales, days on market, median price for the county or cities in Santa Clara County. A lot of you know you have the legal hotline through SCCAOR. I'd encourage you to put these numbers in your phone. The legal hotline can be called Monday through Saturday. It's a great resource for you. And then the mortgage rescue hotline, similar to the legal hotline, but having to do with anything as far as mortgages go. I'm going to encourage everyone to follow us on Facebook. We have our SCORE Facebook account. And actually, if you go to our SCORE website, you visit it on your laptop, you'll see in the top corner here, you can actually follow us on all these different social media platforms. So we're on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter. I'd encourage you to follow us on all those platforms to keep up with all the latest news. Many of you also know we have a transaction resource center. This is where you can get all the latest up-to-date information as far as shelter in place and your business and what you're able to do. We're continually updating this page. So I would encourage you to click that banner and bookmark that page. Also, just a quick reminder, if you go to our website, you can click the My Account link at the top. Log into your account, check it every once in a while, make sure all your contact information is up to date. You know, you can add your social media profiles, you can add your phone number. The real important reason to do this is if someone was to click Find a Realtor and they search by your name or they search by some other stuff, they're going to find the information that you have listed in your SCORE profile. So it's really important to keep that up to date. And with that, I'd encourage you to reach out to me via email if you do have any questions or ideas. I always love feedback I get from members. So I'll send it back over to you, Sandy.
All right. Thank you, Spencer, for that. That was great. All right, let's move over. I want to introduce our president and CEO of MLS Listings, Dave Wetzel. Dave is responsible for overseeing the functional, service, and technology groups at MLS Listings to ensure that they're working cohesively to execute the company's aggressive strategic plans. So we want to welcome Dave Wessel today, and he can tell us what's new at MLS Listings.
Thanks, Sandy. Thanks for inviting me. I've got just a couple of slides. Let me just show those real quick here. I only have 4 slides. I'm going to keep this really short, 4 content slides. So, a few things that are happening over at the MLS. Want to reiterate training. So we've been having a huge spike in the number of people that have been involved from your membership that go to our classes now that we've been in shelter in place for so many weeks. We've got a couple of different categories of these. So we've got webinar classes. These are live classes that are teaching not only just from our trainings, but we're also putting up other partner classes here. So you'll see things like from HomeSnap or Home Touch or MLS Touch, and a lot of the different classes and from vendors as well. The middle section there is our recorded library. So we've had about 33,000 views, about almost half of those just in the last 10 or 11 weeks of shelter in place. So a lot of recorded content that you can go and take a look at your leisure. And then the last one is a new thing that we've added. We've added some of live events, and so we're trying to get a new live event every other week going. We had one just yesterday with our bow tie economist, and it was a really good recording, a live recording. And after it's done, we record it, we put it into the video library, so you can see those there. And then I want to reiterate some of the things that we've done throughout this time frame are in the digital marketing upgrade area. So these are things like virtual open house or virtual tours. And if you have a listing, I'm sure you've seen these, but if you haven't had a listing recently, these may be new to you. And so just wanted to reiterate there's an ability to do a virtual open house. What does that mean? It means, or what is the difference between a virtual open house and a virtual tour? The virtual open houses are live. So that's if you have the ability to be there, or maybe it's the seller that's walking around with a phone. You can now put that consumers to see that link and know when you'll be doing a virtual open house. That's on the left side of the screen. On the right side of the screen, you'll see the virtual tours. And here's an interesting fact. In 2019, I don't know if any of you know Mark Burns over in the Cupertino area. Mark Burns had come to us in 2019. Hey, we at MLS Listings have one set of virtual tour links, like every other MLS in the nation, branded, unbranded. Can't we put in more tour links? Put in something for 3D tours, something for drone tours, and then some additional links just in case there's some more that come out. And so we actually expanded that to 4 sets, branded, unbranded, of tour links at the end of last year. And now it's become really popular now that we've been in shelter in place. Stats. And so another thing that's been pretty popular is that this is kind of the view that you have is kind of underneath this, but if you look at up here where it says MLS Listings, Aculus Daily Market Stats, that's a link on our home page there. If you click on that, it'll take you to daily stats. If you haven't looked at these, you should. We're updating them every day. And we've marked here when the beginning of May when showings resumed, and you'll see some of the trends changing over time with these different events. So obviously when we started shelter in place, that was a really big trend change. And now at the beginning of May, we've had a month now, and you're starting to see some more trends evolve there as well. So if you're having conversations with clients, just go take a look at those daily stats and see what they look like so you can have those conversations. Last slide I have for content here is next is June. And we've got some new things coming in June. two main things. Just to give you a brief overview on, you'll read more about them as these things are coming. I believe we're targeting around the middle of June for this. On the left, you see security upgrades, easier login. So many of you noticed a while back, we added the ability to log into the MLS using Facebook or your Google ID if you wanted to do that. And an additional thing that we're doing now is making it so that you can continue to use your DRE to log into our system if you want. But how many of you log into your bank using your bank account number? I don't. Nobody does. You go and you set up your own ID, and you find an ID that works for you, and you probably use the same ID across many different places. So we're doing that as well. So you'll be able to have an ID that you pick. You can continue to use the DRE if you want. You can continue to use Facebook or Google if you want, but you can also add an ID if you wanted to do that too. So that's coming around the middle of June. When we do that, we're actually switching out some of the security vendors that we're using. So there's some cost savings on our side from a vendor perspective, and then we're moving to a more secure platform as we do that too. On the right, you see a new customer support portal. So we have a customer support portal today. It's a little old, not that many people use it. And so what we've done is we're completely upgrading the whole customer support portal look and feel and content. And so what we've been doing probably for quite a while now is every time you call customer support, we have a case. We go back through and look at those cases and we say, I wonder if there's something we can write up, and we call it a knowledge base article. We can write up an knowledge base article based on your question. Often the questions we get are, how do I do this? How do I set up a save search in Matrix? And so then our people will walk you through that as we normally do, but then they'll go back and they'll say, I wonder if there's a knowledge article on that. Well, let's write one up, a couple of paragraphs, explain how to do it. We've been using those internally when we answer your questions, just so that if we get a tough question to our customer support, they can quickly search and find if that question has come in before and how we answered it. We're making that available to you if you wanted to do your own search on those and find, do some self-help. Maybe you have that question in the middle of the night when we don't have the support people on the phones that can answer those tough questions. And so there's an ability now to do a search on those with this new customer support portal. Again, these are coming out towards the middle of June, and we'll have more information that we send out when those updates come.
Thanks, Dave. We've got a couple of questions.
I wanted to
you.
keep it short, but yeah, sure.
If you
Go ahead,
are
Sandy.
able to field a couple of quick questions, would you be able to give a quick update on the NorCal Alliance integration that is currently in the works? And then the second question is, can you also speak to where you guys are at on coming soon enhancements to the coming soon features and technology that you've built?
Yes, great question. So the NorCal Alliance, so we in February, we announced that the Northern California MLSs were going to come together and build a data share amongst us. We have something in place with the 3 in the East Bay, and we're bringing in San Francisco, Barry's, and eventually MetroList. So we announced that in February as a work in progress. And then shortly after we announced that, shelter in place came along and all of the COVID-19 stuff. What we're doing right now is we're reliant on Rapatoni to make some changes on the San Francisco, Barry's, and MetroList systems to make that work. We're working together with them because we also need to make changes as we're receiving data from a new system that they're creating. And so we're kind of tied into the Rapatoni timelines. And so the Rapatoni timelines, they do not have a black and white date that says this is the date on the calendar yet. They're targeting an after the summer timeframe. The reason being that there are user interface changes that they have to make on their system to make this work. For us, it's all behind the scenes. But if they're going to make a user interface change on their side, they did not want to roll out a user interface change during the summer when you've got kind of a peak of activity happening. So they're looking at a Q3 rough idea from a timeline for that. The work is still going full speed ahead. So our engineers are working with the Rapatoni people to make the changes on our side. So we'll be ready when the Rapatoni people are ready. Coming soon is another great question. So as you know, coming soon becomes more and more important now with Clear Cooperation, which started in at the beginning of the month. And what we're doing is we said our board of directors took a look at some ideas for making changes to coming soon back in the April timeframe. But at that time, the board didn't really have a lot of input in terms of how people were using Coming Soon. We knew how people were using Coming Soon in years past, and in previous to Clear Cooperation, we didn't really have a lot of listings in Coming Soon at any one point in time. And so the board said, well, let's see how people are looking at this and let's evolve it. Let's listen to what people's needs are and figure out how we can make the changes that are necessary and do that. The Rules Committee has been working overtime on this, and normally the Rules Committee will meet about 9 times a year, because we have 9 board meetings a year, and they'll meet just prior to the board meeting and bring something into the board meeting. They've been meeting 2-3 times a month to look at Clear Cooperation, what kind of changes they could propose. They had a meeting a couple of weeks ago. They're working on some ideas on proposals for coming soon. They have another meeting in another week, and then we've got a board meeting, Sandy, that I don't have it on the top of my head, but it's probably like the third Wednesday in June. And so the Rules Committee is targeting to have some suggested changes to coming soon to bring into the June board meeting. What those are, they're still kind of in flux, and they've got some cool ideas. But then, as I said, they've been meeting several times in between board meetings, and it's evolving fast. They're getting a lot of feedback from different people about how Clear Cooperation has worked or not worked for different people with coming soon, and they're making some suggestions that they'll bring into the board in June.
Great, thanks, Dave. I know a lot of members are anxiously awaiting to see some of those enhancements, so I know a lot of people have asked me about it, and so thank you for touching on that. A couple of really quick questions for you before we move on to Kevin. There's a member question here. Is MLS Listings considering offering the members any sort of reprieve for their MLS dues, similar to what Barry's and Bridge have offered their members and subscribers?
No, we don't really have the ability to do that. So it's not something that we have in play right now.
Okay. And then there was a member question about Aculus stats, whether they can be uploaded to the members' social media feeds, or could they be branded?
They can. Well, the daily stats, we've left a blank at the bottom so someone could manually go in and do some branding on that. The monthly ones that you can get, they branded, but the daily ones, it's more of a manual process to do that branding. The daily ones, just as a quick little backstory, the daily ones are actually very difficult for us to do because we're looking at this day in 2020 compared to the same day in 2019. We're doing that by hand. We have a small group of people every morning get on the system, do some queries, look what happened yesterday, compare that to what happened a year ago, and then generate those numbers, create the graphs, upload them onto the website. And so there's a whole little mini factory of manual labor going on to create those. But we've been doing that a big hit with the members.
Got it. And then as we wrap up here, Dave, it looks like there's a couple of member enhancement requests that they've put into the chat. One member requesting to make the coming soon 90 days rather than 30. I know you guys are discussing that. And then another member is asking if you could include the space number for mobile homes in your coming soon feature. So perhaps you can take a note on those and take those back to your team.
Space number. Okay, that's a good one. I hadn't heard that before, but we will. That is a good one to know.
All right, so that's the
Got it. Thanks,
all the
Sandy.
questions we had for you, Dave. I want to thank you for your time today. Thank you for joining us, and hope you have an awesome day. And if any more, you might want to hang out in case more questions come in. We can always answer them in the chat. Okay.
Thanks.
All right. So let's go to Kevin Cole, our regional rep for our CAR. I want to introduce Kevin here. So I think most of you know Kevin, but for those of you who don't, Kevin Cole is the broker associate at Compass. He's been involved with commercial and residential property management since 1979, former broker of record of Elan Pinnell. He started selling residential real estate back in 1992, and he was also your SCORE president in 2018. He currently serves on the SCORE board of directors, and he is also a CAR director and our regional rep this year. So welcome, Kevin.
Thank you, Sandy. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. And awesome informative meeting thus far. Appreciate it. And I also have a brief slideshow to share. So first I want to say thank you to the next page there to all of our 27 CAR directors, myself being the Region 19 chair this year. Region 19 basically represents all of SCORE, and my able assistant, Gustavo Gonzalez. Thank you. Just want to share that the CAR 2021 officers were officially announced at our spring meetings. Dave Walsh, our very own, is going to be the CAR president for 2021. Otto Katrina from Bay East Association of Realtors as president-elect, and Jennifer Brancini as treasurer. The CAR 2020 legislative meetings were not held in Sacramento. I'm calling it the Sacramento meetings because we were literally sheltered in place. And they were, as you noted earlier, Sandy, unprecedented in the sense that we're doing basically virtually everything via Zoom or Blue Jeans or what have you. These meetings, instead of being condensed into 1 week, were actually spread out over 3, 4, and some even to the 5th week of meetings for the committees and the forums. Sadly, there was no legislative day and no traditional Capitol Hill visits, but yet advocacy continued at all association levels, whether local to state to national. Advocacy was very prominent. So pre and post Sacramento involvement, you know, as real estate practitioners, our mantra, one of our main mantras is when in doubt, disclose. And now it's even more so, extra due diligence is needed with the ongoing head-spinning evolution of our CAR COVID-related forms. You can just look to the right, on the right side of this slide, just reflects the hyperdrive evolution of these forms. This is an updated list as of 2 days ago, May 27th. And we have, you know, a new PED visitor, V for visitor, as you noted the other day, Sandy, for virus. PED for S, seller, etc., all the way through. These, we have to give kudos to CAR, to our local SCORE, to give us ongoing support and have these at ready reference for us to use. You need to double check for the latest breaking news at the CAR coronavirus microsite. I would visit that daily for breaking news. Also, as Spencer pointed out, I should have included SCORE's Transaction Resource Center, which he pointed out on the SCORE website. The CAR legal hotline, check with your broker. Want to tip my hat, kudos to Will Shea of our CAR delegates, directors. He's our regional rep for the forms with CAR. And then when all else fails, you can always check in with MIL, which is your mother-in-law. Okay, next. The CAR Biz meetings were condensed to one virtual BO Board of Directors meeting on Thursday, April the 30th, where we considered 18 total action items in addition to multiple reports only. Just kind of reflects the importance of our delegates attending this Board of Directors on behalf of our membership in SCORE. Just a quick refresher of action item highlights. Just a broad brush view. The CAR 2020 Ballot Initiative Task Force. The action item quote that CAR allocate up to $30 million from association reserves to fund a statewide campaign for home ownership for families and tax savings for seniors, or in essence, the property tax-based portability on the November 2020 ballot. The Board of Directors, after 1.5 hours of discussion, which involved 32 quote at the mic virtual speakers, it passed 525 yeas versus 92 nays. Basically, as a reminder, this initiative expands the property tax-based portability, quote, to a replacement residence regardless of price or location. It allows 3 transfers and provides the same transfer opportunity for property owners in state disaster areas or living on contaminated property, unquote. The CAR submitted nearly 1.5 million signatures to qualify this initiative for the ballot in November. And on June the 25th, the initiative will be considered officially qualified for the ballot. So that's the date on the calendar to circle. Just adding an important footnote to this, part of the 1.5 hour discussion centered on the intergenerational transfer reform component and the changes and the concerns of how this initiative affects that component. But again, I'm just giving a broad brush review of this, so we can discuss that offline if you so desire. Next slide. This is just another example of 2 additional action items of the 18 that the BOD considered that prompted, these 2 prompted more at the mic discussion. From MLS policy, we had an action item that drew 10 additional virtual speakers. This passed. And then number 3 from transaction and regulatory, an action item that came from the Wildfire Task Force with legislative committee approval. Again, it passed with BOD, but yet there was a lot of discussion at the mic and even further discussion whether this should have been tabled to the next set of meetings in the fall. Next and final slide. Just want to give kudos to our Region 19 Realtor Action Fund participation and to our Region 19 RAF Chair Greg Carlstead. We were the only region in CAR with all directors contributing at $100+ contribution level. I think this reflects SCORE in general and how all of our membership steps up and puts their skin in the game and contributes to Realtor Action. The A for RAF is action or advocacy, or basically you're saying you're all in. Final thanks to all of our all-star lineup that goes to our CAR meetings, and of course our SCORE supportive staff. Thanks, Sandy, and it's back to you.
Thank you, Kevin. That was great. All right, let's move on to our NAR rep, Mike Sibilia. So Mike Sibilia is the broker owner of Keller Williams, Silicon Valley. He's been a licensed real estate agent for over 30 years. He is also your SCORE past president from 2011, and he currently serves as an NAR director. So welcome, Mike.
Thank you, President Sandy. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Perfect. Good. Just like the CAR meetings that were scheduled on site, Washington, D.C. is our usual May meetings. And the purpose of Washington, D.C. is twofold: to get the directors together, as well as be able to meet our elected officials and lobby and make sure that they are aware of our wants and needs in the political arena for private property right benefits and our own industry. So this year, obviously, we were not able to meet, but we did another virtual board of directors meeting, just like CAR. Usually, we have about 9,000 to 10,000 members attend the legislative meetings in Washington, and this year we had over 28,000 members register for our Washington meeting. Also, since we could not meet with our elected officials last week, we were able to, through the efforts of Tim and Barbara Limbaris, meet with Zoe Lofgren on Zoom and get her support on some bills that they are going to be seeing before Congress. So with that, the board of directors voted on a few different items. One was that the board voted to establish rights of the MLS participants to receive a data feed on their own listing information. Basically, brokers can now access their own MLS content. Most of the MLSs throughout the country already do that, but there's a few that did not, and this will go into effect January 1st. It really closes the loop on that. So it makes it easier for brokers for their own websites and being able to get their own information in a easier fashion. The 2021 budget was approved, and the good news is that the board dues are going to stay the same. They're not going to go up. There's currently about 1.37 million realtors at NAR. It's projected that this could dip down to about 1.3. It also could be up to 1.35 according to NAR chief economist Lawrence Yun. At 1.3, there's going to be probably there will be a deficit, and NAR will use some of the reserves next year should it dip to the 1.3 level. That's what we're basing it on. A couple other items. There was some money that legal action funding. The BOD approved some funding to support an Illinois property rights case, a New Jersey case involving independent contractors, and a Missouri case involving realtors' ability to provide floor plans without violating some architectural copyright. Just again, NAR servicing the realtor needs. The board also approved in-house financing a set of principles to use the GSE funds, describing under what terms Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac should be allowed to invest in functions outside of their scope of their credit, their guarantee business. It specifies that any investments made by the GSEs outside of their core business should be focused on the direct or indirect needs of housing. Our tax policy was passed in favor of federal homeownership tax credit, which would incentivize taxpayers to purchase and own a primary residence. Ideally, According to the policy, a tax credit would be for the households that no longer itemize deductions, which provide a higher benefit in the first year and would recognize geographic housing cost differences. And lastly, based on what Kevin was talking about the tax measure that CAOR funded to get on our ballot, the NAR directors are contributing $4 million in the support of our California bond measure. So that concludes my report. Thank you, President Sandy.
Thank you, Mike, for that great update. All right, so we've got a couple of minutes left here. So what I want to do is just take a couple of minutes and open it up if anybody has any questions. We do have a couple of questions that came in on the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and throw those out there. The first question has to do with the PEAD, the PEAD form. And so maybe, Kevin, I might want to throw this question to you if you're available. The question is, does the PEAD have to be digitally signed, and do you have to have it back from the listing agent and to be able to actually show that home? So, Kevin?
Hi, Sandy. Again, I would just defer whomever is asking to either the legal hotline and or the respective broker. If you don't mind, I think it's just best to keep that open conduit between the upline, one in charge there. Okay?
I think that's a good call. The next question, I think this might also be for you, Kevin. There was a question about the Prop 13 transfer from parent to child. You had commented on that, and they missed exactly what you had said. Was there a change to Prop 13 transfer between parent to child?
Yeah, I'm not an expert on this. I know others within our contingency are more articulate on it than I am. And that's why I kind of brought it up as a separate component, and that there are some pros and cons, concerns. It's kind of like Dave was saying, it's a work in progress. And, I'm just not articulate enough. I think I wanted to mention it because it is a critical component. And in that 1.5 hour discussion, there was a lot of, push on that to get that more clarified. But like I said, I would take this conversation offline so I know who's wanting to address this, and then I can have a better dialogue with that person. So you can reach out to me at kevin.cole@compass.com, and I'll get back to you and have that one-on-one discussion.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for that.
Sandy, if you want, I could probably have Tim come in and give a little clarification on
if he's
that,
available
if
too.
you want to see the policy language.
Thanks, Neil.
Yeah, the question was regarding the portability issue of the new ballot measure. I was a little confused. What was the question again, Sandy?
It was about the property transfer from parent to child.
So it wouldn't close that part of the inheritance transfer with the new CAR ballot measure, given that the child would be living in the property. It has to be the primary residence. So you will maintain your tax base on that property if it is transferred from parent to child, if it's a primary residence, but you will no longer keep the tax base if it is used as a rental property.
Got it. Thanks, Tim, for that. Question.
And I can add in on that a little bit as well, if any of our members have concern about that, as to why that was included in the ballot measure. It's something that the state legislature has already explored anyway, and it's likely something that would get passed through the legislature within the next year or two, and possibly even close in the primary residence portion of it as well. So this was included in to keep the teachers, the firefighters, the police office unions neutral on this position, opposed to in 2016 when they felt that this was going to be a drain on local tax revenue for their programs. And so that was included as an amendment from Prop 5 in 2016 to make it a little bit more palatable to those that opposed it.
Thanks, Tim, for that. A question coming in from Lucy regarding the coronavirus forms that realtors need to use for showing properties. Just want to, say that if you're using the zip form desktop version, you should definitely run your update so that you have all the latest and greatest forms that were just updated in the last couple of days. And also, Kevin had a series of links that he was able to get from the SCCAOR website that also provided access to the pictogram picture for posting on a listing, as well as all the references that you should know if you're conducting real estate. So definitely go check that site out, and I'll see if we can't get a link posted out here for that. All right, so that's all the questions we have for now. So I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I just wanted to first of all say give out a huge thank you to all of our speakers today. Awesome job, great information, and I want to also give a big thank you to all of our attendees. We've had at one point over 120 people on the call, and this was a great turnout, and so thank you for tuning in. If any more questions come up, feel free to send them in, and we'll try to get answers back out to you. And if you have any feedback on this meeting today, this format, what you liked about it, that would be great to have as well for future meetings. And then I also want to remind everybody about an upcoming event that we have next Friday. We've got an event on Friday, June 5th. It's a top producer panelist, and it's called Keeping It Real. So stay tuned for more information on that. We'd love to have you on that webinar that calls next Friday. And with that, I want to wish everybody a wonderful weekend. Stay safe, have some fun, and go sell a house.
Thanks, everyone. Great job, Sandy.
Thanks, everyone.